So you've heard Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, all the talking heads talk about how should I pay for my mortgage. Well, the reality of the matter is you should never pay off your mortgage as long as you live. That's correct. You should never pay off your mortgage as long as you live. So let's get into the facts and let's just go through the math here a little bit and let's see if we can dispel some of those myths about why you should pay off your mortgage. Now I'm going to use 4 tanks here. I'm going to use what we call our risk tank. It's a risk tank because it has no lid on it. It's going up and down with the market. It's subject to what's happening in the market. And right now I'm going to use an average rate of return of 8%. Now you can argue with me whether that's a good average rate of return or not, but we could put our money in the S&P 500 and easily get an average rate of return over any period of time of 8%. The safe tank, we're going to use 5%. Right now, CD rates out there are at a rate of about 5%. Safe tank, notice there's a lid on it, so we don't have to worry about evaporation. Over here in the loan tank, we're going to use 4%. You're going to tell me that rates are right now at 7, 8%, 6%. It doesn't matter because the average person that has a loan right now is down in the rates of anywhere from 2 to as high as 4 and maybe a little bit higher, but we're going to use 4. It's simply an illustration. We're going to use appreciation on our house at 4%. So at 4%, now maybe houses are appreciating a little bit slower in your area. When we get together and we meet, I will put any numbers you want in here and I'll show you how your numbers work for you. So first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about a down payment. Now I understand that if you don't put down 20% on your house, then you're going to have what's called PMI, private mortgage interest, or insurance rather. So at that point, you really don't want to have PMI if you can avoid it. And no one's generally going to give you a 100% loan on your house. But let's just see what happens to a down payment and the opportunity cost of having to put down a down payment. So I put down 20% down on my house here. Now, I go out here, and what I do is I make mortgage payments against my house. Now, what this illustration is showing us is it's showing us what if we put $100,000 in the risk tank, making 8%, $100,000 in the safe tank, making 5%, and we were paying 4% on our mortgage. Well, over a 30-year period of time, our house would be paid off. At appreciation, our house would be worth $1,662,272. But in our investment tank, had we taken that down payment and we put it in the investment tank at 8%, we would have $1,863. Had we put it in a safe tank, we would have had $448,636. Now, what this shows us is the opportunity cost that we lost on that money. So by putting it in the house, we had $1.1 million over here and $448,000 over here that we could have had if we hadn't put it down on the house. And once again, I understand that we do need to put down a 20% down payment on our house. So the more down payment that we put down on our house reduces our monthly payment. That's a fact. Down payment earns no interest. That's a fact. Your house will go up or down in value regardless of how much money you put in it. So equity, the money that's in the house, has a 0% rate of return. The more down payment does not make the house worth more money. It's still worth what I purchased it for, which is the $500,000. But what the more down payment does is it reduces the control over my money because now the money is inside the house. So let's go out here and take a look at some significant events here. Now, once again, we're going to use 8% on the risk tank, 5% on the safe tank, 4% on the loan tank, and over here we'll appreciate the house at 4%. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to make an extra $1,000 a month payment towards the house. So not only are we going to make the principal and interest payment, but we're going to make an extra $1,000 a month payment towards the house. So we'll go here, we'll go ahead and get that started, and we're making an extra $1,000 a month payment towards the house. The fact of the matter is, rather than taking 360 months to pay off the house, we'd have that house paid off in 185 months. Now, there's a little thing called the Parkinson's Law. And the Parkinson's law says your expenses will keep up with your income regardless of how much money you make. The more money you make, the more money you spend. So what happens for most people is at the point where they pay off their house, they make a huge mistake, and that is they stop making the payment. Now, of course, you would make payments to the bank, but you should be sidelining that money. When in fact, most people will not sideline that money. They'll actually spend it. And so if we were to take a look at what that looks like, then the house would go ahead and appreciate out over that 30-year period of time, and we would end up with a house that was paid off. And yes, we would have paid a lot less than interest against that loan because we paid it off earlier by giving up that $1,000 a month. So 0 months control of extra payment plus the value. Extra payments did not increase the value of the house. It's worth exactly what it's worth now. And the potential asset value from the extra payments is 0. Now, what if we did that a little bit differently? So what if we went out here and we went ahead and we paid off that house with that extra $1,000 a month? But instead of making that $1,000 a month, we put that money in our safe tank. Now, here's the reality. At 177 months, which is 8 months sooner than making the payment to the house, we would have enough money inside of our safe tank to actually move that money over and pay off the loan. So by maintaining control inside of our account there, we have enough money to pay off the house at any point. So let's look at it a little differently. What if instead of sidelining that money in our safe tank, we put it over in we continued to make that payment against it out over that total 30-year period of time? Well, not only did we have enough money to pay it off in 177 months, but we made that extra principal payment, and at the end of 30 years, we ended up having not only a house paid off at $1,662,000, but we also had an additional $575,726 over to the side. So we'll go take another look here. Now this time, instead of taking that extra $1,000 a month and putting it in our safe tank, we're going to put it over in our risk tank. So we're contributing that to our risk tank. And what happens here now is in 158 months, we have enough money in our risk tank over here to actually pay off our house. Now I ask you, if you were sitting in this position right now and you had a 4% loan on your house or less or even more, it wouldn't really matter, and you had $280,000 sitting over here in cash, would you put it in that house where it's no longer safe, no longer liquid, and no longer making rate of return? And the average person, once they understand the math, would never do so. But let's say we keep banking that money and we keep going out and we keep making that 30-year loan against that, and we're banking that extra $1,000. Now, not only were we able to pay off our house in 158 months instead of 177, or 185 rather, we have extra payments that didn't increase our house payment, or our house value is still exactly what it was. But in addition, we have another $1,165,047. So at the end of the 30 years, we end up with a basic net worth of about $2.8 million, as opposed to 1.6. I don't know, what do you think is a better way to do it? So if we were to go out here and we were to take a look at what happens if we pay cash for our house. I love it when a person says, I paid cash for my house. Because when they say I paid cash for my house, then I always say, well, okay, so you financed it. And they say, no, you weren't listening to me. I said, I paid cash for my house. I said, you weren't listening to me. You financed it. You see, you finance everything you buy. Either you finance it or you use someone else's money to finance it. So let's say we had $500,000 and we could go out and we could pay off our house right now today. So we're going to use the same thing. We're going to use 8% in our risk tank. We're going to use 5% in our safe tank. We're going to use 4% as a loan. Well, there's not going to be a loan in this case. And we're going to have 4% over here, the appreciation on our house. So we are going to invest $500,000 in the house, $500,000 in the safe tank, and $500,000 in the investment tank. And let's see what happens over a 30-year period of time. So over a 30-year period of time, we end up with a house that's worth $1,662,272. We end up with a savings account that has $2.2 million, and we end up with an investment account that has $5.5 million. What you're looking at here is what's called opportunity cost. What would that $500,000 be worth out over that period of time? And when you look at this, you've got to believe that it doesn't make sense to pay off your house. Now, if you don't, I would implore you to set up a time, a no cost, no obligation appointment with us, and let us sit down and show you how this works in your world and whether or not it makes sense to you or not. Rarely does it not come out where the person changes their mind. If everything you thought to be true turned out to not be true, how soon would you want to know? So in this case, I had no payments. The longer you finance it, the greater the control. The house will appreciate at the same rate, and it also might depreciate. See, everybody believes the house will keep going up and up and up, but the reality is money is cyclical. And I've personally lived through a couple downturns inside the marketplace, at which that point we would have a problem with regards to the value of our money that's in our house. So let's say we went out this time and we 100% financed it. Now, I know it's really difficult to go out and get 100% financing. As a matter of fact, in this day and age, it's almost impossible. But once again, we're going to use an 8% tank over here, a 5% tank over here, a 4% tank on the loan, and a 4% on the house as far as appreciation goes. Let's watch and see what happens over a 30-year period of time. So we're making those payments, principal and interest payments towards the house, and we get out over here, and we at 15 years, we have $1,061,256 in this account. We have $1,664,000 in this account. At any point, we could go and pay off this $322,000 because our house is already paid for. We just simply haven't used the money and put it inside the house where it no longer is safe, it is no longer liquid, and it no longer has a rate of return. Now, if we continue that out for 30 years, what we find is that at the end of 30 years, we still have a $1,662,272 house. But in our safe tank, we have $2,243,180. And if we chose to put it in our risk tank, we have $5,504,317. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think I should finance my house, or do you think I should pay cash for it? So if you look here, the longer you finance it, the greater the opportunity. The longer you finance it, the more control you have over the money, and the house will appreciate or depreciate at the same rate of return. Now, the question that I have for you here is what do you think? Do you think it's better to go out, make accelerated payments towards your house, give extra principal payments to the bank every month? Here, Mr. Banker, here's an extra $1,000. Listen, don't pay me any interest on it. And if I need it back, you can drag me through the mud and charge me any rate you want. No, by the way, if I can't make that and the other payments, then you can keep that and all the other principal in my house. Or do you think it's better for you to maintain control of that money throughout your lifetime and be able to use it and take care of problems? Say, should you lose a job? Okay? Become disabled? Something along those lines. Put your comments below. And remember, live like you're going to die tomorrow and plan like you're going to live forever, because you just might. Be sure to take the time to come and let's do a free strategy session for you. Keep smiling and make it a great day.